Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today's panel focused on from what I've been hearing in the market, a very relevant topic for marketers, e-commerce managers, and CDOs, tech consolidation. Today, we're going to be discussing strategies, examples, and use cases that will help you maximize your tech and minimize your costs. But before we jump in, my name is Divya Mulander. I am the Director of Product Marketing at Bloomreach, and I'm joined today by Luis Espinal, who's the VP of Business Development at Lynn. Luis has over a decade of experience in the e-commerce landscape, spanning roles in MarTech, fulfillment technology, digital agency, and brand side. And we also have Roddy Smith, who's the Director of Partnerships at Reviews.io. Roddy has nearly a decade of e-commerce experience across SaaS and brings a unique perspective on what merchants need to succeed in this ever-changing landscape. Thank you both of you for joining our panel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Divya. We're excited for today.
Awesome. All right, so we've got about 30 minutes of discussion. But let me take the first 5 minutes to contextualize things. First is the what. What do we mean by tech consolidation? I'm assuming everyone here has a sense of what it means. For today, when we say consolidation, we mean streamlining and optimizing the tools that you use to improve the customer experience, from awareness and acquisition to retention and loyalty. But of course, the more important questions are the why and the how, and that's what we're going to get into today. So let's start with why tech consolidation matters. I've been on both sides of the equation. So previously, during my years, I used to be a B2C marketer. So during those years, and as a practitioner, as an email marketer, lifecycle marketer, the why was quite simply just the joy of not having to toggle between apps and tabs and juggle between tools that different teams use to put a campaign together. And then again, try and make sense of disparate dashboards and attribution models just to figure out what's working and what's not. Now, on the vendor side, as part of Bloomreach, and as someone who solves these exact pain points for other companies, the why isn't just how much companies stand to save in terms of cost and resources. In fact, we've seen that our clients save almost 50% of cost savings with consolidation. So in my mind, those are two sides of the same coin, but very significant reasons why tech consolidation matters. So to get this going, I'll throw this to our panel today. Luis, let's start with you. How do you agree with the why? And if so, how does consolidation help with overall profitability and improving the effectiveness of MarTech and customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, Divya, you hit it right on the head, right? Like, I think the elephant in the room is really reducing costs, right? But also reducing like administrative overhead. It's not easy to juggle 30 plus vendor relationships and 30 different administrative backends and day-to-day workflows, right? So really streamlining what your team is having to interact with on a day-to-day basis is amazing. But also in terms of cost reduction too, right? Like, it's not just paying less amount, but it's also paying less business entities, right? So really just streamlining your day-to-day workflow is key with tech consolidation. The other thing to consider too is the impact all that code has when it's on your website as it pertains to site speed and performance, right? So, these different applications need to run at separate points of that customer journey on site, right? So really streamlining the amount of API calling or scripts or any type of application on your website is going to streamline and speed up performance on site, which will lead to things like more conversions, better user experience, etc. So just to encapsulate all that, of course, you're going to have a reduction of cost across all of the tech apps, right? You're going to have a reduction of administrative workload. And at the end of the day, your site is going to be faster and perform better.
Almost like that will lead to better collaboration between teams. So your web team is not always blaming the marketing team for slowing things.
I bet it will. Yeah. I'll hazard to say yes there.
Yeah. One of the things that I also think here is when we talk about consolidation, there's a tech consolidation piece, cost consolidation, and the other thing is really just better data consolidation. And I almost think of it as a separate entity from cost and tech consolidation. In fact, I think that is such a critical thing that can really transform how companies think about marketing campaigns or just customer experience in general. I wonder, like, if you had something around data consolidation or specifics around, like, what is your opinion on data consolidation, on how marketers should think about, merchandisers should think about data consolidation as separate from tech or even cost?
Yeah. I can start first, Rodney, and then pass it to you. Does that work?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So when it comes to data consolidation, for me, the key information is like customer data, right? And you really want your customer data profiles to live in one place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to track all the activity that customer is doing on site, what they're engaging with, what products they're looking at, where they jump on to the experience and jump off, et cetera. And if you're trying to piecemeal and string all this together in 11 different backends and dashboards, it's going to inevitably make your life harder. But the other benefit of really having holistic customer data profiles on one backend, all that consolidated data in one place, is you're going to have better output from your technology applications too. So you have better product recommendations that are more dynamic because you have more information feeding into your model, better cross-selling, upselling. Things like your retention strategy is going to be a lot more personalized and dynamic, right? Because you just know more about that customer. If you're getting information from, let's say, Shopify about their shopping patterns and experience, but you're also getting information from reviews about, their feedback from their product, etc. So if it's all living in one place under one hood, you're going to have more effective retention tactics you can employ.
I actually really agree with that, because I think I've often talked to a lot of practitioners and marketers, and one of the things that I urge them to think about is like really, or who are thinking about like, I need to move away from this CRM, I need to move away from this ESP, is really like, is what problem are you really trying to solve? And more often than not, it comes down to, I just really want to understand my customers better, or I want to understand the whole life cycle view. And that's where it's so important to have exactly what you said, data about the customer in one place, so that every next action, every email, every SMS, every recommendation that is served is informed by the last action. Which actually brings me to consolidation and the impact on personalization. And actually, I think this is something that I know I've discussed with you, Roddy, and you've shared your experience here a little bit. What have you seen in the market, and how does that consolidated view of something like reviews or user-generated content actually help with personalized customer experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you don't have a bird's eye view of what your customers are doing, you're not able to get like down and actually look at the overall journey. I think like reviews, surveys, UGC are some of the best places for you to collect that information about your shoppers, and then leverage that to make your marketing campaigns and flows better. You want to leverage your reviews data. You can create different campaigns and flows in your ESP, allowing you to segment and send those curated emails. But then if you're sending SMS as well, you don't want to be sending them both at the same time. You want to be able to look at that, again, take that bird's eye view, look at, okay, when are my optimal open times for email? When are my optimal send times for text messages? And coordinate those amongst the overall picture. I know I keep talking about this bird's eye view, but I think that's what allows you to get the granularity you need to make your campaigns the most effective and impactful for the brand, and to really drive that personalization, so you can ensure that if somebody has left you a positive review, then it's pretty safe to say that they're a fan. So sending that follow-up campaign into leading into Black Friday, Cyber Monday can be a great way to leverage somebody who's a champion of your brand to push it to other people, offering a refer and earn, something through your loyalty and rewards program. So tying all these pieces together is going to be the most effective way for a brand to succeed. Because I think there's no silver bullets in e-commerce. There's no one thing that is going to, work above all others. Some may be more effective over time, but I think having that sort of holistic view of the bird's eye view of the picture is going to give you the strategy you need to make sure that you succeed. And I think just rolling into attribution as well, you're never going to it's never one thing. The old adage in sales is
Right.
that there's 7 points of contact before you're going to close a sale. I think
Right.
the exact same thing applies to marketing. Just because they last clicked on that email or last opened that SMS doesn't mean that SMS or that email are the only things that did it. It's going to be the overall journey that got to them to that place to make that purchase and step over the line. And I think that's where like the consolidated view for your personalization, for your marketing campaigns, for everything is going to make your life as a marketer, as an e-commerce brand, as whatever you're doing, a heck of a lot easier.
I laugh because when I used to be an email marketer, I was in a constant battle with my paid media partner because he used to get all the budget. He was like, but the lead came from, or the conversion came from Google. But I was like, but what about all the emails I sent that let them do that? And so I feel like the attribution aspect is absolutely, it has to be a bird's eye view. It's no one single thing that's actually leading to a final conversion. And I feel like a lot of people
you're
will
totally
relate.
right there. Yeah, and I think the other element to consider, right, you're talking about working with your paid media team, right, Divya? Imagine the doors this opens with working with other departments on the brand side, right? Like think of marketers being able to work with folks on the operations logistics side now, right?
Yep.
Because they have that consolidated tech stack, they know what stock is low and in high demand because of, folks signing up for wish lists or anything like that. They can get information from their back end fulfillment
Yep.
operations team and let their customers know dynamically, like, hey, this thing is back in stock that you were looking at. Like there's so much you can do once all your technologies working and talking together, right?
Yep.
And it will enable and foster more consolidated work with your team too, right? So
100%. And one of the that actually brings to mind one of the examples. I think it was it's one of our clients in UK who did this, where they what they were seeing is everybody wants to do this top seller recommendation, or they want to make sure that, okay, we're talking about like, okay, how can a customer find the best sellers or the best things that they want to find. So what was happening is there was so much surplus inventory for like the non-top sellers, and that became a problem. And so our actually customer support customer success team worked with the client to be like, okay, maybe we need a reverse campaign of, hey, like, how do we make sure these low in stock items are actually now moving, and how do we? And so it was very interesting how what marketing does has an impact on inventory, and then you have to work with all of these cross-functional teams together to make sure, okay, what is the other campaign that we can drive to make sure that whatever's in surplus, we're actually pushing it out. So 100% agree with you on there, and that's where like the bird's eye view is so important.
I think I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, I think that's a great point in terms of like the teams all working together, because the irony of this entire conversation, I feel, is that SaaS products have somewhat created this tech consolidation problem for ourselves. Historically, you would have the IT manager or webmaster who would like oversee big software purchases and would like look at this sort of holistic view. But with the proliferation of SaaS, we've made it so much easier for the VP of marketing to go, I need an ESP, or the e-commerce manager to say, I need a loyalty platform. And then they don't always talk to each other, and then
Yep.
each go out and get it independently. And now we're coming back to this point where like, oh, we need to talk to each other to make sure that these pieces of the puzzle actually connect and can talk to each other, whether that's on the shipping and fulfillment side or, wherever within your tech stack.
Yep. One of the things I actually you had mentioned, I think, Brodie, was like using reviews and surveys and user generated content, and what that reminded me of, like, really this whole aspect of zero party data and utilizing getting zero party data and utilizing this sort of like that data in campaigns, which I think I've gotten that question, which brings me to this is, where does basically consent and data privacy live in this consolidated state of things? Because I feel like when you think about, there's all of this data that you have to play with, and then there's all of these cross-functional teams that are also using this data. So what should marketers and commerce professionals be aware of in terms of data privacy and regulations in this new world of consolidated tech?
Yeah, this is a hot topic and a tricky one, because I think there are so many variables within it. generally you want to be making sure that the data is stored where it should be stored and making sure that it's stored in a safe way. A lot of larger companies, will need to have data residency within their exact country, encryption, the whole shebang. And I think looking at things like whether they're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and having those sort of check boxes attached to their business can make things a lot easier. GDPR compliancy. And then to just further muddy the waters, looking at how you collect that data varies depending on country. So if you're in Germany, you have to have double opt-in, whereas if you for signing up to an email newsletter. Whereas if you are in the States, generally you can get away with tacit consent. If you've purchased, then you can sign them up to the newsletter. So making sure that you have different strategies based on where your shoppers are coming from, and ensuring that whatever your strategy is in alignment with the rules and regulations of that country or state or province or wherever you are.
Makes sense. Speaking of, I don't know, Louis, if you had, I wasn't sure if you want to say something. Okay.
Yeah, no, I can definitely add to it. Like Roddy, he lives and eats data privacy, as you can tell, right? But on the agency side, what we're starting to see, especially as it pertains to folks considering like platform migration or larger projects, there a more recent trend within the last year and a half has been implementing a security audit as part of that focus, where they're effectively reviewing the security documentation, risk mitigation type documentation for the e-commerce platform, the agency, and also any third-party applications, right, that they're working with. And I highly recommend other like brands reach out to your agency of record and ask them to do a security audit. That's a great use of retained time that's going to ensure that you're in regulation with any type of privacy regulation for countries they have nexus in and you're doing business in. And then I always tell clients too, like, just keep your data collection to what you need, right? Like, you don't need all of the data that you can get your hands on. Like, really focus in and hone in on collecting data for what you actually need from your customers, right? And then that'll enable you to create better strategies for, sourcing zero-party data and then using it after the fact. So,
yeah, that could also help you save some costs. Speaking of cost optimization, I think there's, especially with AI, and everybody's talking about AI, there's this, we say it too, but like your AI is only good as your data. But I think that's where it's like, it's not about like more data. You don't need more and more data, but you need the right kind of data, and you need to know how to use that data. So like for us, it's like there's all of this first party where we have a first party data strategy. And then there's additional, if you can personalize things better, if you can collect preference or you have specific questions that you can ask your customer, you use that to either forms or sign up units, or we use web overlays or banners and web layers. And then you ask those specific questions. And there's always there is an expectation on the client side, obviously, that if I'm going to part ways with this, my information, it's not data to them, then there has to be a value exchange. And the value exchange is going to be, you shared this with me, and here's the personalization that we promised you. And that has to be very clear. And so I think absolutely, Louis, like don't just collect data for the sake of collecting data because you think it'll make your AI work better. But then know what data you're collecting, know the purpose of collecting that, and make sure that I think one of the things that companies and in e-commerce professionals are responsible for is knowing that if I've collected this, I also have to prove that there's a value exchange for the information that I've collected. Okay, so speaking of ethical data usage and best practices. So this is specifically, Louis, for you as an agency that has helped clients consolidate data, bring together tech. What are some of the best practices that you advise your clients that you wish more people just knew, and it would just make their lives better?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point, right? Like, where do you start? What's the best way to start? What's the best thing to do, right? I think I always, recommend and like champion that clients do internal stakeholder alignment. Easier said than done, right? How do we put that into practice? consider doing something as very simple as like a business requirements document or BRD. It can be a 1 or 2 page document that you put together as a collaboration effort with department heads or any stakeholders for whatever like platform you're looking or whatever element of the tech stack you're looking to consolidate, and really outline what your goals are, right? And so that could be the guiding light or the North Star as you embark on any type of tech stack consolidation with your agency of record, or if you're vetting multiple platforms to see which one to migrate to, right? You'll have your fully baked full set of requirements there, and all of the team members are aligned on that, right? We see a lot of folks who are misaligned on goals or even have separate goals, and they're sort of marching in different directions, right? It's no good for anyone. Part of the fun really on the brand side is when you're going about tech stack consolidation, it gives you an opportunity to negotiate terms, right, with your third party applications. A lot of the times folks will have different levers they can pull, like bundled offers, promotions, etc., even like different contract terms, because you're investing more in their platform and their technology, right, for your business. So definitely use it as an opportunity to negotiate new terms, etc., for you. And outside of that, I always let clients know to really situate your development and technical teams for success. So as you're vetting different technology stacks or even like different feature functionality for your existing partners, ask for sandbox environments or ask for access to certain staging environments, et cetera, that your development team can go in, and ensure that, you know, whatever you need the platform to do works, right? Whether it be a baked in out of the box feature functionality that's native to that platform, or maybe you want to ensure that the API is working as it need be so that, you know, platform A can work with platform B and send it everything it actually needs to send, right? So just make sure that your dev team, whether it's in-house or an agency, is situated for success by giving them more access. You know, in this case, really more is more. So I would say those are the top 3 elements. And just to re-encapsulate that, right? Like, make sure you in line with internal stakeholders. Doing a business requirements document is a great way to do that. Number 2, take this opportunity to negotiate better business terms or more comprehensive ones for your business. And number 3, situate your dev teams or your agency for success by giving them access to things like sandbox environments or staging, et cetera.
One thing to add on, I did this with a previous company with our own internal tech stack, and I think it was a really good exercise that holds true for brands out there. We were handed a document which I think is similar to your BRD, but it was like, what do you use every day? What do you use like weekly? What do you use monthly? And then the last question that I think was the most poignant was, what doesn't, like, what do you need? Like, what do you wish these tools could do? Or what's something that you've wanted to try out or experiment with? And sent that all back to like the ops team. And what we ended up coming back with is that some of the tools that I was using daily, I already had that functionality. I just hadn't dug into it. And I think that's a big piece of the tech consolidation is you start looking for, it's like shiny object syndrome. You start looking for that new thing because you want it to do this when you're not actually looking at like what's right in front of you that can already do that. And the number of times I've seen merchants who have, I don't know, in Shopify, like 20, 30, 40 apps installed. And that's just, 1, way too many, and 2, you're just bloating your site with unnecessary code that all of them are going to be dropping in. And granted, Shopify's made it a lot better over the years with app blocks and things like that, but that's still a lot and probably not needed. So I just thought that was a really valuable exercise to better understand the tech stack you already have and like how you can sort of rein things in.
That makes sense.
Totally right. If I could add one more thing to that too, Rod, you're totally right. And one thing we do as an agency here is we actually ask our technology companies as well, we're going about this work, what's on your roadmap, right? And like brands, you should totally do that as well. Because sometimes you need a feature functionality that, let's say, isn't available in a platform you're leveraging. maybe it's in development in the next 9 or something like that. Right?
The answer to that is of apps out there. And if you just by asking what's your roadmap, if you get crickets back in response, then I think there's your answer. It's like not all of these companies are still building and developing and progressing the product as much as some of the other ones out there. So it's always worth asking that question to better understand where they're going and what you can potentially do with it.
100%. I think that's where like companies, if we start looking at these vendors who provide tools and technology as true partners, that's where I think like the vision, like where is that company headed? What is their roadmap? What is their vision? That it's a mind shift. I feel like that if everybody in the team that's using that tool can think about, that would be very beneficial for the company itself. So and one of the things that also for me, like one best practice that I've seen is many vendors are actually now moving to the start anywhere and scale approach. So like tech consolidation is, I think the promise of tech consolidation is definitely there, but I think a lot of vendors are realizing that no one can be expected to just uproot their entire tech stack. So they are if they do, especially Roddy, if they're going through the exercise of looking at what is my existing tech stack, what should I realistically retain and what can I uproot? Then I think a lot of marketers understand that they won't even utilize a lot of what they buy. So I think, at least for me, I do appreciate if I have the option to, at some point, scale and grow with this partner, with this vendor that I'm looking to partner with. So we actually, in fact, do see a lot of clients that start with maybe 2 or 3 channels, maybe start with email and website and ads, and then actually add on channels. And for that, that is where this whole, what is your vision? What is your roadmap? If I do want to grow at some point in the future, is this sort of like a future-proof solution for me with that consolidation vision in mind? So 100% agree with all of you. This was really good. I feel like if somebody were to take down notes, like this is a super good, super
No
useful
one's taking notes?
They better be.
I think, in the end, it's like we can talk about best practices. We can talk about why things, tech consolidation matters, but really, does it actually result in significant improvement in marketing performance is the question. That's what everybody wants to know. Like, show me the proof. I was wondering, like, do you have do you have examples? Obviously, we can't get into specifics sometimes, but then how have some of the clients that you've worked with seen this consolidation actually result in improvements in performance?
Yeah, I can jump in quickly. I think one of my favorite examples is a very large cycling brand, and they actually leverage us for reviews as well as our loyalty solution. And because we built both of them, they tie together very, very nicely. Dashboards look identical, and they all tie into their ESP very nicely. And the streamlined process for them saw their engagement in their loyalty program increase by 50% in the first 6 months. And that's across redemption, points earned, the whole shebang. And I think as a result, they were able to then start branching out into different areas. So they started leveraging Strava. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Strava. It's like tracks your runs or bike rides and whatnot. And so, by following them on Strava, you can earn points. And they started leveraging the loyalty program to start connecting into different pieces where their users are and allowed them to be much more creative with their existing solution with like some pretty easy API calls. It's pretty cool to watch. We should have a case study coming out soon. So I'll be able to share more details of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've got a similar client. You can't share the name; it would be confidential. But they're like a fitness apparel brand that we collaborate with, and so we consolidated their customer data profiles and both reviews, things like surveys, and also things like their email retention type software, all accessing that same consolidated CDP. And so effectively, that enabled things like us asking from the reviews or post-purchase side, things like, what are you using this apparel for? Are you using it for hiking? Are you using it for yoga? Are you using it for MMA or basketball? Really enabled us to go out and ask the end customer, what's your tribe, right? Like, what are your passions? And we were able to capture that data from like the reviews post-purchase front and consolidate it alongside the customer data profile. And what that enables is on the marketing retention strategy side, we're able to really tailor content for that customer and their tribe, right? So we're able to do product recommendations for the tribe that they identified in. We're able to invite them to specific events, right? Based off of what their interests are. And all of that working together provides a better customer experience because they're getting more relevant content or offers or products in front of them. But B, it makes the customer feel heard. And we really feel that's important, right? Like the customer wants to, like if you're taking the time to speak to your brand and engage with you, you should reciprocate that and show them like, hey, we heard you and here's a better experience, right? And here's VIP access. Like I have, they're not a client, but I'm a big fan of a footwear brand called Greats. They're based out of Brooklyn, New York. And I'll never forget, I went into the storefront, bought a pair of shoes there and signed up for their SMS offer. And 2 weeks later, they sent me like a VIP email inviting me to like a secret event they were hosting at their store. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And yeah, it's just surprising the like really works well. And I know that they have some consolidation happening behind the scene there. So yeah.
Yeah, whenever I see we're looking for a nanny because my 4-year-old is now going to public school. So like we have these they'd send an automated email, we'd reply to them late at night when we have time, and then the next morning we'll be like, we didn't see you, and I'm like, oh, I know their automation is all it's not in the same stack. They're not communicating with each other. So it's very funny when you're working behind and when you know how these things work and you see these things coming from brands, like, oh yeah, somebody should tell them about tech consolidation. No, I agree. Like I think we've seen so many examples of companies not just like outright saving money, which they do, but also seeing like the results of consolidating all of this. I think one of the examples that we know is like one of our clients, Notino, actually, they started with same thing, Start Anywhere and sort of that scale approach. They started with, I want to say, email and consolidating like the data and email in one place. And then they started adding on more and more channels. So the minute they turned on, for example, ads, it's the same customer segment. So, and then you route that to ads and they immediately saw a 50% improvement in conversions through ads. So that's, I feel like the advantage, like it's almost like immediate when you see that you start consolidating when you have so it's not just consolidation of channels, it's also like when you have data and channels and analytics and AI and everything in one place, as you switch on, it's almost like you're switching it on and you immediately see the benefit of it, which is something that we've seen as well with our clients. Okay, so I think we're at the end of our allotted time. This was great. It was so great to chat with both of you. I'm so glad that we could talk about live, actual real cases and also air some past frustrations through this conversation. But thank you everybody in the audience for joining us as well. The recording of this recording and the slides will be available via email within 24 hours. I hope this was useful for all of you. If you have further questions, I think our LinkedIn information should also be available to you. We're happy to answer any questions you have if you want to reach out. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Roddy. Thank you, everyone.